this is what I use for a start page these days. This is a website. They claim that you're more or less anonymous and they don't track you. And the search results, I've noticed, are a little bit different than they are if you use a different search engine. I think that's a normal thing that's going to happen. If you use, I actually go back, I just use Yahoo search most of the time because it seems to give me more results from a typical search that I do. And so anyway, that's why I start out with this start page. I've gotten to where I prefer it. I don't have to use a special browser. I don't have to use DuckDuckGo, which is not a big deal. DuckDuckGo, I think, works the same way. But things that I search from here, when you come up with the results, you'll see off to the side it says anonymous view. I don't know if that's really true 100% across the board, but it raises my comfort level just a little bit. So I've been using Start Page. It seems to be working pretty good. So I'm going to move into my first topic. This is something I came across that I had not seen before, and it's how to access the clipboard history in Windows 10 so you can paste multiple items. That should include to say you can delete individual items from the list if you want. So you have some more flexibility, and it goes back quite a ways on your clipboard. I don't know when it gets reset. Maybe when you do a restart. I haven't really tested it out. But I know it keeps a history, so like in the current browsing session, if you've clicked on a number of things, as I have a habit of doing, if we were not on this page that you're looking at now, which is a new fresh page that I started, I use the keyboard command Control-N when I'm in the browser, and it gives me a new clean page with no tabs across the top, other than the current one. So I usually have 15 or 20 tabs open. It's not unusual for me to have that many when I'm surfing around because I have a slight case of attention deficit disorder. So I start looking up different things that lead to different things that lead to different things, and I wind up with a bunch of tabs open. So the clipboard history, I've used a few times. It's pretty handy. I'm not an expert on it. Excuse me. But it does seem to work pretty good. I've tried it. There's some instructions here if it's an issue for you. For years, when I was teaching the beginning computer class, I stressed to the students that when you paste something to the clipboard, that's the only thing on the clipboard. And when you paste, it's going to paste whatever you put on the clipboard. And when you paste something else to the clipboard, it replaces the old item with the new item that you've pasted there. So I taught them that in the beginning computer class for the last several years. And it turns out this is a way to be able to get to previous items that you've pasted to the clipboard. Kind of handy. Give it a try. It won't hurt you. This next one is it's like a Mr. Science video, I guess. Let's see if it comes up here. I don't think it has sound because you can see what they're saying at the bottom. I don't think there's any sound with it.
Hey, Don, let me interrupt. When you open up a new window, I don't see anything. I've been seeing the same screen the whole time here.
I haven't either.
It never changes?
Yeah.
All I see is the Detroit News.
That's right.
Really? Well, I'm glad
about anybody else?
Yeah, the same thing here.
All right. Well, I'm going to close this window then. So Okay, so this is what you see. So how about now if I go and select that same,
Okay,
Now I see something different.
okay, now you can see the little video playing?
Yes.
Yes. Up says Facebook.
This is like a science project for your grandkids or something. And I don't know what kind of bulb she has. She says it's hot, so I'm guessing it's an incandescent. But I don't really know.
the hell is she doing?
So what she does is she takes the center out of a raw onion and she's going to put in some vinegar and some baking soda, I think. Doesn't look like it was well rehearsed, but I think it gets the point across.
Okay. Now what? She's going to stick it in there and the bulb's going to come on. That doesn't work. Yeah. Fake news. There's that. God damn it.
You know, with all the quarantining, we need something to amuse ourselves with, so.
I know, but
Well, that's good to know if we have a power failure.
Well, there you go, something useful. What it doesn't say is how long that light bulb stays lit up with that onion. Here's something else I found. This is another link. It says, what small blue and protects your network? The little device called Firewalla. It's actually a self-contained little firewall appliance. I don't know, it is something interesting. The reason I brought this up is because one of the ways, like on a larger network, one of the ways that I use to protect the network from stuff I didn't want creeping in was a hardware firewall appliance. There's a popular one out there for small businesses called Sonic Wall. You plug it in between your incoming network connection via whoever your provider is. It plugs in between there, and then you access it with a browser, and you can put all kinds of settings in there. You can screen out all kinds of sites by IP address, by name, by content. So it's an attempt to kind of screen out what I used it for was to try and screen out non-business activities. because we had, the company I was with, we had about 150 users, and there was a small percentage of them that, that thought they were smarter than me. And one guy, one time, he told everybody that in his work area, he said, well, he said, they asked him about what he was doing. He was playing euchre online. And he told them, he told all his coworkers, yeah, but the way I do it, there's no way Don or anybody else could possibly know what I'm doing. A few weeks later, he was gone. I mean, from the company. He didn't die or anything. He just, they came to a mutual agreement, and we cut off his internet access, and he went to his boss and he said, I can't function without internet access. Well, at that point in time, he only had internet access for about a month, and he was doing his job for 2 years before that just fine without internet access. All of a sudden, he couldn't do his job anymore, so his boss said, well, I guess you'll have to leave, and so they parted company. Anyway, this is one you can use at home. You could probably carry it with you pretty easily if you travel a lot. There's some things to learn about it. They have instructions here, and they have a, you can see, there's a picture there. It's not very big. You can hold it in the palm of your hand. And so if you're, I said to somebody the other day, I said, well, you know, if you're participating in the Federal Witness Protection Program, you might need something like this to maintain your anonymity. It's not something I would bother to use for my own PC, but then again, maybe I should, but so far I haven't done that. Anyway, it's just a little toy if you feel inclined to play with it. There may be places that would send it to you on a money-back guarantee, so you could try it for 30 days. If you didn't like it, couldn't use it, you could send it back, I suppose. I've done that a number of times. In the old days, this is something I used to do that was a little sneaky. Before the internet was so popular, I was in contact with, I would find vendors that sold different products that either my network had a use for, or the office network had a use for, or I knew somebody that I was helping had a use for, but they weren't sure how well it worked. So I would call these manufacturers or these distributors, and I would tell them this story. I said, well, I'm a network engineer. I have a number of customers that might have an interest in this product, but nobody wants to order it without testing it. So is there a way you could send me an evaluation unit? Sometimes they would send me one for free. Most of the time, they'd give me a highly discounted price. And so I would, every once in a while, I'd buy a printer or something. And I would just, I'd wind up keeping it because I'd paid them some money for it. But it was surprising how often that little strategy worked. And that was in the day when these manufacturers weren't well known. That strategy wouldn't work with IBM or Dell or, well, I take that back. It might work with Dell. There might be a local person, a local reseller who might be willing to let you try one for a while. And I actually have had, I had a couple of units. I had it was like a server. It was like what we call a NAS box, a network attached storage box with 4 hard drives in it. And I had a company send me one of those for free. Actually, the sales guy made an in-person call where I was working, and he brought in a demo unit for us to try. So we tried it and we played with it, and he was, the strategy was he was going to be back in 30 days to pick it up or sell it. Within that 30-day window, he left that company that he was working for. And they kind of forgot about this. No one ever called to ask for it back. I wouldn't know where to send it unless they did. And his number was no longer working. I had a phone number for the guy, but he had left the company and they had vacated the office. It was a long time ago. It was before the days where cell phones were real popular. So I wound up with this unit that normally cost about $5,000, and they never asked for it back. And so I just kept using it. So anyway, you can be my guest. You can try that strategy if you want. It has worked for me in the past. I guess it depends on how good of a talker liar you are. But anyway, this could be handy for those of you that really want to go into the area of a firewall appliance. This is about the smallest one I've seen that you can buy. Of course, there are software firewalls that you can use. This device, though, prevents stuff that you don't want. It never sees your internal PC on your LAN. This blocks it before it gets to your router, actually. And so it's, I don't know. It might be worth playing around with. What I will tell you, my experience with these firewalls is they need constant attention, because there's always new things coming up out there on the internet that the firewall doesn't know about, and therefore it doesn't stop them from entering into your network. So,
Hey, Don, I have a question.
yeah.
I thought your typical router has something called NAT. And the idea behind it, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it will only receive things that were from addresses that you actually access from your network. So how do hackers get around that?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that I have a really good answer about that. And I don't know that they have a real easy time getting around it. What NAT does, NAT stands for Network Address Translation. And so your router is already doing that when you set it up, when you first plug it in. Because what most routers are set up for is they do not connect your PC in your house. They don't connect it with an IP address that will route across the internet. However, they all use almost the same internal IP address. And so it's important that you have a strong password at that point to keep them from just gaining free access to everything on your network. I thought I was being clever one time. I set up an FTP server, and I used the traditional default settings for it. I was using a Windows server running the Microsoft IIS, Internet Information Server software. And it has a way to easily add web pages and FTP pages. And so I set it up, and we had people in the company I was with that wanted to use that as a way to easily share internal projects with people from outside our firewall or outside our company. It didn't take hackers long before they hacked their way into that, and they started FTPing entire M&M DVD videos and movies and all kinds of stuff. And it was like, I didn't understand why they were doing that at first, but the reason they do that is so that if they give out a link with that address and they're broadcasting illegal activities of any type, and somebody else on the internet uses one of their links and gets in there, and they're using that stuff, and if the authorities discover what they're doing and how they're doing it, they're likely to come knocking on your door and charge you with illegal distribution of porn or illegal distribution of licensed material. And so that's what these people were doing. They were hacking in. That was the only purpose they had. And so I didn't have unlimited storage space, so it didn't take long before the hard drive on that server filled up and caused me all kinds of problems. So what I did as a way to prevent easy access to my FTP server is I assigned, instead of the standard FTP port, I assigned an unused TCP/IP port that's not normally used for anything and not assigned to anybody else. And there are a number of them out there. There's thousands of ports that you can select. And if I wanted to give somebody access to that FTP server, I would send them my link which had our domain name and so forth. And at the end, I attached the port number. And it's easy to do that. You just use a colon and then put the port number. And when it hits that address, it goes to that port instead of the standard port. That seemed to work really well. So there's ways to prevent easy access. There's no way to totally prevent other people from getting into your network that I ever found. These firewalls are probably your best bet. And again, they require attention, because if you find somebody that finds a hole in there and they get in, it's pretty easy to research what IP address they're using, what domain name they're using. That all has to be registered with several authorities that control the internet out there. You can find out that information. I use a product called DNS Stuff that I can interrogate. I can actually get phone numbers of people that are responsible for websites quite often, and give them a call and say, hey, somebody's doing this from your website, and get them involved with solving that problem. They may not view it as a problem, is the hard part. So anyway, it gets pretty complicated. When I first took my training class on TCP/IP protocol, there was one other guy in the class who had a complaint to the instructor that they weren't doing a good enough job, because he claims that he had taken this course, the same course, 3 times, and still was unable to pass the certification test from Microsoft or Novell or the places that test those things. He was unable to pass the test, the category, the TCP/IP portion of the test. He wasn't able to pass that. It's a pretty complicated setup. When you first start out, it sounds fairly simple, but it gets more and more complicated the more you get into it. And now it's even worse. It's a lot more complicated, because in order to work with IP addresses, you have to have some sort of a tool that lets you set up filters a different way, because the new V6, TCP/IP V6 that you see that almost all the new routers are using, in addition to the older V4, they're using hexadecimal words in the address, and I think it's got twice as many segments to it as the old IP address. I'm getting a thumbs up from Tom. Did I do okay on that, Tom? Good, okay, thank you. So anyway, it can get very, very complicated. It's getting more complicated all the time, but a device like this makes it easy. Again, I don't know what this costs, probably 150 bucks or 100 bucks or something. It doesn't look like it should cost very much. But if you're really concerned, or you're having a problem with somebody that's discovered how to get into your network, and you want to do something to stop them, this might be a tool you'd be interested in.
I think the blue one is about 110 bucks. 110?
Yep. Okay. So that's
the red
not terrible.
One is 150.
Yeah, it's like, I always equate this to how many tanks of gas can I buy? That, on my vehicle, it might be about 3 tanks of gas, maybe a little more. So probably not the end of the world if you're having the problem. If you're not having a problem, I will warn you ahead of time, you're in for a lot more work if you try one of these. The hard part isn't paying for the box. The hard part's going to be setting it up and maintaining the integrity of the firewall. Okay. Oh, and I have a PDF here. I downloaded this, and I'll upload this I'll give this to Barry. This is a PDF manual on how to set this device up. I would suggest reading through this for an hour or two before you order this box. Otherwise, you probably will waste your money. The box does not work automatically by any stretch. So it's got categories here, troubleshooting info, all of these links. You can click to other parts of the document, so you can. It looks like they've got it indexed fairly well by different types of categories you might be interested in. And of course, they're talking about the firewall of gold, which probably costs a little more money. But if you travel and you're in the Witness Federal Protection Program, you might want to carry one of these with you. Might be worth it. Okay, this next little device, I like devices. This next little device is a way to get rid of HDMI cables. Right now, you know, if you look at the back of my TV in our family room, the main TV we watch, I've got a couple things plugged into the HDMI ports. I've got a Chromecast plugged into one, and because there are times when the Chromecast doesn't perform as well as I would like, I run a direct cable to another HDMI port. So I've got a cable hanging off the back of my TV that stretches about 10 feet across the room, so I can plug it into my laptop, so I can put on my big TV screen anything that's on my screen. Like this presentation right now, I'd have no problems with. I might have trouble Chromecasting this. So Chromecast doesn't handle everything. If you're using, if you're watching licensed movies, I don't think the Chromecast will allow you to Chromecast those. The last one I tried anyway, it wouldn't let me do that. So I plugged an HDMI cable in, and I was able to send it over to my TV from the DVD player on my laptop. Or any other source on my laptop. So this is a device. It turns your HDMI port into a wireless HDMI port. And so I haven't told my wife about this yet because I've yet to convince her that a guy can never have too many wires. And so she does not like wires running into everything. It's too confusing. And so as soon as I hear about this wire, I may have to order this and see how it works. If I do, I'll report back and tell you what my results are in trying to use it.
Hey, Don, looking at this, one of the things I would caution you about is how your HDMI and USB plugs are arranged on the back of the TV, because mine are closely together, and even with existing USBs, it's really a tight fit.
That's a good point. That's really a good point, Len. I've done the same thing myself. I don't look close at the port, and I try to plug this into a USB port, or vice versa. I try to plug a thumb drive into my HDMI port. Another port you might have on your machine is called a display port, which is very, very similar to an HDMI port, but they're not interchangeable.
Right.
In order for me, like when I come to the meeting, in the meeting room at the senior center, I have a little adapter I have to plug in to turn my display port into an HDMI port, so that the cable they have pre-installed at the center there will plug into that, and that seems to work pretty good. So, but yeah, that's something to be aware of. The port sizes are similar in size, and so if you don't look real close, you may attempt to plug this in, and if you're successful, you might ruin both of them.
Well, another issue is this looks like it's physically wider than a HDMI cable, and the ports might be too close together to plug this in and then another cable, so you might lose a port.
That was my point. The other thing is, what they show here is how the heck do you power these things? Are you going to have to plug in a power to each one of these modules? Or are they battery operated?
Let me scroll down here and take a look. You know, my adapter to go from display port to HDMI port requires no power. So I don't know, but I think you're right. There would have to be, and it says right here, right where my cursor is, if you can see that, you have to have a spare USB port anyway, because that probably provides the power to it.
Okay, they're
Yep.
USB. Okay, there you go. But my point is that in my USB, HDMI and USB ports are so close together, I think this thing would block the USB port.
It won't fit in, Len. You have to use a lot of force to get this into a USB port and vice versa.
No, I don't mean that. What I'm saying is the width of this module will, if you plug into the,
I understand what you're saying. The width of the module blocks the USB port.
Yeah,
Exactly.
physically blocks it, right?
That can definitely happen. So
That
if
is
you
a good
need
idea.
power to this from a USB port, I would suggest that there's got to be an adapter that plugs in, and you can see on this end of the thing, there's a little tiny connector there. That's probably where it gets the power.
Mm-hmm.
You can use like a tablet charger to give the power to these things. And that plugs directly into the wall, and then you use a USB cable from that into this device.
That's a lot of cables to avoid using a cable.
That's my point.
Well, except you don't have to run a 20-foot cable across the room.
That's true. Yeah, you could use a cable to move this away from your TV enough that it won't block any ports. Use an extension cable.
Tom, you need to unmute. We can't hear you.
No?
No,
No.
I don't hear you.
All right, I've got something wrong then.
Okay. If you figure that out, say something. We'll come back to you. Okay, so you can. And the other thing you can see is one of these is labeled TX and one is labeled RX.
Yeah.
So they're going to be sensitive based on which direction you run your cable. For instance, if you're running from, like if I was running from my laptop to my TV and I wanted to use this instead of a solid cable across that 10 or 12 feet that I normally use, the transmit, I believe, would go into the PC, into your laptop or your PC, and the receive would plug into the TV end.
Yeah.
So it only broadcasts in one direction. Okay, any more questions on that? If not, I'm gonna move on here. This is another article. Some of you may know this. In fact, most of you in the meeting today may be well versed on how to do this. Why you need to upgrade to Windows 10 Pro and how to do it cheaply. When you're working with Windows 10 and you're upgrading an existing machine, Microsoft will allow you to do that online. The limitation is that if you're going to upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10, you have to use the same relative version. Like if you have Windows 7 Pro, you can easily update that at no cost to Windows 10 Pro. The same license key works for both. However, if you're trying to go from Windows 7 Home to Windows 10 Pro, you're going to have to pay for a license or get a Windows 10 Pro license, because that is not, you can't upgrade in that fashion. You can't go from a home version to a Pro version. You can't go from a Pro version to an Enterprise version, and you can't go the other way either. So you have to stay Pro to Pro, Home to Home, Enterprise to Enterprise. So that's one of the warnings about this. But they're saying, well, let's say that you want to do that. The Windows 10 Pro license right now, it says here, you can buy a genuine Windows 10 Pro license for $40, $39.99. Okay, that's like an upgrade price. because the full price would be $140, I think. In most places anyway. You may find it cheaper. I was in a situation where I was working on a PC that had a warranty, and it had a problem. So we sent it back to the manufacturer. They claimed they couldn't fix it, so they replaced it. Well, when I ordered it directly from Hewlett Packard. And in their website, when you're ordering stuff, you can configure what you want, and they'll build the machine with the options that you want on it. So on the original order, I had paid extra to go to Windows Pro from Windows Home. When they sent the replacement PC, they didn't bother to do that. They just said, well, okay. When I called them, at first they said, well, we can't just do that. We can't just send you a license. I said, well, okay, then I'll send the machine back. You can do it right and then return it again. All at your expense, of course. In the meantime, there's myself and another person who is anxiously awaiting this piece of equipment to work after paying good money for it. And you guys are dragging your feet rather than make customers happy. You know, you want to make it as hard as you can. I don't know that that's I don't know that that's the best tactic for maintaining loyal customers. So what I wound up doing was I sent a note. HP, I found a place on their website actually. HP had a place where you could send a memo to the CEO of Hewlett Packard Corporation. So I just typed in a little brief description of what we had gone through and the aggravation we've had, and sent it off. Within a few hours of me sending that message, the same support person I was dealing with called me directly and said, we'll be happy to send you a new copy of Windows 10 Pro, no cost. So they did. And so somehow they worked it out. They also did something else. They sent us another. Anyway, I wound up with an extra copy of Windows 10 Pro that I still haven't used. It's still in the cardboard envelope. I've never used it for anything. So I don't know if it's. I'm assuming it's a valid license code on it and everything. It looks like a Microsoft sealed package. So anyway, yeah, you can upgrade from 7 Pro to 10 Pro at no cost. If you want to go from 7 Home Edition to Windows 10 Pro, or if you want to go from Windows 10 Home to Windows 10 Pro, apparently Microsoft has lowered the price to do that to $39, $39.99.
What's the advantage of the Pro version over Home?
I'm sorry, I didn't get all that.
What's the advantage of Windows 10 Pro over Home?
Well, the one thing, better security. And when they have a problem, I think they fix the problems in Pro before they fix the problems in Home.
Also encryption.
Because the people using the Pro version are usually companies, and some of those companies have a fair amount of what I would call clout with Microsoft because of the volume of stuff they buy and maintain. And so I think Pro gets a little more attention in that regard. It's supposed to have better security. If you're interested, let's say, I'm trying to remember, BitLocker, for instance. If you want to use BitLocker, it's not available in the Home Edition.
Right.
You have to have either Pro or Enterprise in order to run BitLocker. So there's some differences like that. For the most part, if you're like a majority of people out there, you buy a computer and all you want to do is surf the net and send email, you're not going to see much difference. Okay, let's see. Let's see what I've got next here.
Windows 95.
Oh yeah, this is something just kind of goofy. I don't think there's probably many people still running Windows 95. However, when I had Windows 95 15 years ago, whenever it was, it had some games on there that I kind of liked. The reason I kind of liked them is because they were easy. You know, sometimes I just want to relax. I don't want to have to burn up extra brain cells trying to figure out World of Warcraft or something like that. And again, you know, there's another person in my house who sometimes wants things kind of the old way. And she was asking me, how can I get the old Windows 95 games back? Those were fun. I liked them. Well, it turns out that if you have an old machine running Windows 95 or a Windows 95 a DVD or CD, the old games do not need to be installed in Windows 10. You can just copy one file over. Sometimes it's two files, but you can just easily copy those over to Windows 10 and those games work just fine. There's a pinball game that's really pretty snazzy if you like playing pinball on your computer. There was like 4 or 5 of them that came in a game pack that was offered at one time by Microsoft, you know, 15, 20 years ago. So if you have an interest, but anyway, this guy remembered something that I had found by accident years ago. It was called Microsoft Bob. And he talks about that. Here's one of the original solitaire games, I think. So there's this thing called Microsoft Bob that made it easy for kids to get indoctrinated into using a Windows platform. And I'm looking for the link here. I had a link. Thought it was in the article here. Well, okay. Thought it was on his screen here someplace. Well, this is telling me, well, you can run a Windows 95 emulation in your browser. That's a different project. And that's just an ad. The one I mentioned, Space Cadet Pinball. That's a pinball game that's pretty fun. You can play it right on your screen. It has sound effects. It has music. It has it sounds like a pinball machine. Things light up and you launch each ball one at a time and they bounce around like they do pretty much like on a real pinball machine. And well, let me go back to my links here and see. I'm just not seeing it. Let me try. Let me try doing a search for it. So that's what Bob looked like. And let's see here. Let's see if this little YouTube video will play.
Microsoft Bob. That name always confused me. Who calls their software Bob? Mid-90s Microsoft, that's who. But the question I really want to answer today, though, is, was Microsoft Bob really that bad? I mean, the response I got from people, even after posting one vague tweet showing Bob, kind of says it all. It's one of the most most maligned Microsoft products ever and has been the butt of so many jokes over the years that I don't know if it's deserved or if it's just an easy target for hyperbole. But I do wonder how many people today that are saying these things have actually used it. Heck, I've never even used it myself. It was introduced and discontinued so quickly that I don't even remember seeing it on store shelves. All I knew going into this video was that Microsoft Bob was introduced in 1995 to serve as a replacement for the Windows Program Manager environment, mimicking the layout of a house instead of the more abstract desktop concept. And I'd always heard it was the origin of some of the most notorious things in tech, including Clippy and Comic Sans. Quite the legacy, if true. And now it's finally time to find out. Welcome to the Microsoft Bob experience on LGR. First off, big thanks to Jason and Robert for sending several of the items you'll be seeing in this video. I wonder if Robert goes by Bob. That'd be fantastic. Anyway, I ended up with 2 boxed copies of Microsoft Bob over the years, and it amuses me that each of them have this sticker saying it's a promotional sample not for resale. Perhaps it should have stayed that way. It never hit retail in the first place. Still, if the box is any indication, Microsoft sure was betting on Bob, calling it the hard-working, easygoing software everyone will use. Even underlined it for good measure. Ballsy. Microsoft were so sure this was going to be a hit that they planned their own Bob ecosystem with its own software. Give a nice warm greetings to Great Greetings, the one and only piece of software released exclusively for use with Microsoft Bob. And this has to be one of the single lowest selling products in Microsoft history. I can't imagine a more surefire death knell for a program than having Microsoft Bob as the main requirement. And they even published a book authored by Barbara Rowley called At Home with Microsoft Bob, Ideas and Activities for Getting the Most from Your Home PC. It's a 200-page tome filled with all the features and potential uses for Bob, even though the box for the program itself proudly proclaimed the software was so helpful you didn't need a manual at all, which was kind of true in a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of way because Bob...
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there because the screen they have up here right now is what you would see when you launched Bob. And the way you would get to different things is you use your mouse and you go around the screen and you click. Like this would be the clock, I think, and this is your library, and there's different things you could click on, and you kind of had to go around and kind of discover what they were and click on them to see what they did for you. When I first saw it, I kind of laughed to myself. I said, like, why would somebody waste their time programming something like this? But what I found out was my grandkids loved this because they didn't have to read instructions. You could bring this up and they could launch different things just by working the mouse. These days, new humans among us, they seem to know automatically what to do when you put a mouse in their hand. It's like amazing. I bought my granddaughter, it was for kids, it was a tiny little laptop that was arranged kind of like the screen you see here. It had fun little icons on it that looked like toys. Well, I didn't even know if she'd have any use for it. The last I heard, about 3 months after she had it, the report came back from my daughter that she doesn't leave home without it. So it's just early training for using a cell phone or a tablet, I suppose. Anyway, it's not around. It's probably hard to find. You might be able to download it because it's like the guy said, I suppose if you went on eBay, there might be people that would pay you to take it off their hands. I don't know. But at any rate, just thought I'd mention a piece of nostalgia from the past. And okay, so let's get back here to some other stuff. What time have we got here? Well, it's almost noon. Might be time to take a little break. Is everybody okay with that? Take about a 5 to 10 minute break, and I'll meet back here in a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, Don, is this audio working?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to test it. Thanks.
Okay.
Hello, anybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Very
Yep.
good.
You're sounding good, Carlos.
Okay.
Can anyone hear me now?
Cynthia, when you come up, can you bring some of my peanuts?
Can anyone hear me now?
No, it's in the refrigerator. Okay, thank you.
Can anyone hear me now? Now is the time for all good men.
goes to 1 o'clock, 11 to 1. Yep, break time. Now I head on back.
Now is the time for all good men.
I heard that.
Thank you, Carlos. I'm troubleshooting my microphone here.
Okay.
Sounds like it's working.
Yep,
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Everybody ready to go again?
already.
Yes.
Okay, my next topic down here, Intel's new Tiger Lake try to get rid of the ad there. The problem is I can't see my whole screen when you guys are blocking part of the screen here. I'm gonna try to do this. Okay, so this is the new Tiger Lake, supposedly the latest Intel 11th generation chip. And I don't know what, I have mixed feelings about why they're bothering with this. They said it's not really a whole lot faster. But it makes a point saying that it's faster than the latest Ryzen laptop processors from AMD. As you may know, there's a lot of competition going on between the two companies on who has the fastest chip. And my take on it is that I kind of equate, I'm kind of a car guy from the old days, and I kind of equate it back to the horsepower races that the car manufacturers competed in back in the 60s and 70s. They did everything they could to raise their horsepower rating because everybody wanted faster, more powerful cars, I guess. And it turned out that, you know, they found different ways to come up with the horsepower measurement. And so you could read their numbers, you could read the number from Ford or Chrysler, and you weren't necessarily comparing apples to apples because of the way they calculated and or measured the horsepower. And I think I kind of equate, there's a similar activity going on right now between AMD and Intel on chip speeds. My take is that you should use what works best for you. And, you know, if you don't have a chance to, you can't just go and buy one of everything, of course. I mean, that wouldn't make sense. So you have to find a place where they'll let you get your hands on the different machines. And even that's not going to tell the whole story, because you run into the issue of software compatibility down the road. And we've seen that in some things. I think I shouldn't pick on Barry because I don't think he's attending the meeting, but it was some time ago. You know, he had a laptop for a while made by Asus, and he was very proud of it. It was a nice lightweight machine. It had a very thin bezel, so you got more screen real estate for the advertised screen size that you bought, and it had some advantages. And so he bought a new one at one point, and he gets it home, and he finds out, horror of horrors, it won't run Linux. It won't run Ubuntu. So he took the Asus back and returned it, and he bought, I think, an MSI, which is a very highly rated brand of laptops. And I think he's been pretty happy with that ever since. So, you know, unless, I don't have any good words of wisdom on how to make sure that you're going to be happy with any of these machines that you buy, regardless of which chip. So I say, well, if you buy one, you know, the AMD Ryzen chips equipped laptops are usually a little less expensive than the so-called equivalent Intel-based machines. So if price is more important to you than any perceived compatibility issues that may potentially arise, then get what you get, you know, buy the one you want. If it works, it's great. And hopefully if you buy one and you find something that doesn't work on it, hopefully you find it within the first 2 or 3 weeks so you can return it and switch out to something else that might work better.
May I interject a point here?
So anyway, this is an article that talks about the new Intel chip. And I just notice this paragraph here. I think Tom might be interested in this. It says Tiger Lake's AI capabilities. It says the Power Director, whatever that's a feature, I guess. It can harness Tiger Lake's AI capabilities to drastically speed up processes of artificial intelligence. I assume that's what they're talking about. Apparently I don't know a lot about artificial intelligence. I see it demonstrated in science fiction programs and movies, but the practical applications, I suppose, you know, the self-driving cars right now is a hot topic everywhere, and or it seems to be, to me anyway. And so is that, I question whether self-driving cars are true artificial intelligence the way I would describe artificial intelligence. All the self-driving cars, what they're doing is they're responding to a set of instructions that were created by people that I'm guessing did not have artificial brains. They had natural brains. And so they program them to react to different things in a certain way. And the problem I have with the self-driving cars is I personally think that they need to come up with a system that is right 100% of the time in making decisions that can cause injury or death to humans. And I don't think the self-driving cars have the intelligence to determine if an object is necessarily human or animal or vegetable or something that dropped from the sky. They can obviously detect movement. They can do many things, and they're using them. And I think the future, that is the future. And some of the features they put in, you know, like the self-adjusting cruise controls. I think there's some benefit to those. But I don't consider that necessarily true artificial intelligence. So I don't know, Tom, you might chime in on this. I don't know how you feel about it. You've done a lot of reading and so forth about it, but I think from what I've seen and the examples that you've given are like your program, that's something that you created. And I'm pretty sure you don't have an artificial brain, so I don't think we call that artificial intelligence necessarily. It's just a sophisticated program that does what it's programmed to do.
Well, I told you about the baseball team I was on years ago when I worked for artificial intelligence at General Motors. We were so ridiculed that we had to change our shirts from saying artificial intelligence. We had to change them to say real intelligence, because otherwise everybody would make fun of us. But all these things are on their way, and these are all good developments to enable computer-assisted driving. I mean, I've begun to depend upon the rear backup warnings that I have on my vehicles now that tell me when people are behind me and when cars are behind me when I'm parking or pulling out of a parking space. These things are all in their way. And it's like any other computer program. If it can help you, then that's a good thing. If it can't, or it does something bad, like drone-controlled weapons, then it's not good.
I agree with what you said. But and I have backup warning on my vehicle as well. In fact, if I look at my screen on what used to be a radio, and still is a radio plus a bunch of other things, if I look at the screen, it actually gives me a grid as I'm backing up. If I've got the wheel turned, it shows me where I'm headed. And so there's definitely benefit to those types of things. My question is, do you consider the backup warning artificial intelligence?
I have a comment here regarding this new capability, if they're saying it. For example, I have a photo processing app that I bought a number of months ago that uses supposedly AI to improve the sharpness of an image. And so I would think if it's done right, this program would use this capability in the new laptops with AI capability and do it faster, because right now on my system, it takes a little bit longer to do the processing. So so maybe down the road, there's going to be more and more software that will work faster by taking advantage of some AI capability. So I don't know.
Well, only the future will
Marketing.
tell. Only the future will tell us that, right?
As a marketing term. And when you say like that computer is an AI enabled computer, what does that mean? Does it have neural network programs buried into it? Probably not. I think what it means is that they have the capability to synthesize multiple small processors in it. Like an NVIDIA graphics card has 2048, Lens has 2048 small scale processors in it that can do number crunching really fast, as opposed to a large instruction set like an Intel 8 processor machine. It's a marketing term.
I agree with that.
It always has been. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's like 5G, Don. What does 5G really mean? It means different things to different companies.
5G, the way I understand it, the difference between 4G and 5G is just the number. 5G is supposed to be faster, but it's not necessarily 20% faster or twice as fast or 10 times faster. There's some number that it probably equates to that, but it's not a scale that I can relate to. I couldn't say, when I first heard about 5G versus 4G, I didn't know whether to think it was going to be twice as fast or 20% faster or 25% faster or 500% faster.
Yeah, it's a marketing term.
Right. The bigger number just indicated to me that it probably is faster. And that's probably something that I didn't really feel like I had to go research and find out exactly how much faster it was. I just assumed that 5G was better than 4G.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So anyway, I kind of got off my topic here. I get a little bit, I suppose, but that's good. So there's all kinds of tools like that I guess maybe I would have to say that they incorporate elements that if you combined enough of them, it would be true artificial intelligence. I don't know, maybe. It seemed like if you ever watched the movie I, Robot or read the book I, Robot by Isaac Asimov, they touched on that artificial intelligence quite a bit in there, because the robots had to make life or death decisions many times in the plot of the movie anyway, and they weren't always the right decision. They weren't when I say that, and they weren't the right decision, they weren't the decision that some human being thought they should have made. Whether that's the right decision or not, sometimes it's a matter of opinion, I suppose. Okay, let's move on to the next topic here. I've actually thought about doing this. I'm using, to get TV content these days, I'm using my laptop more and more to find programming or things of interest that I want to watch and share with other people in the room at my house, which is usually just my wife, who's usually got her nose in a book reading. She prefers to do that versus watching TV. So, but anyway, so I thought about just getting a Chromebook and using that with the TV instead of my laptop. And if I bought a cheap enough Chromebook, I would just leave it permanently attached to the TV and tucked around the back or on the side or underneath, or maybe hooked up through my Chromecast or some other wireless thing, and have it right by my recliner, so I didn't have to get up and go grab it. And so I found this article, Cheap Chromebooks for Distance Learning and How to Pick the Best. And I've read several articles by this guy that wrote this article, Mark Hackman. He is, he's got some recognition across the industry, not only at PC World, but for some of the articles he's written. And so he went through and he kind of nets out the differences between different Chromebooks and how it affects the cost and so forth. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to make a choice. I haven't made a choice yet, and I may not.
Does he say what is cheap?
Well, well, it seemed to be cheap was maybe at the low end was probably, you know, 160 bucks or, you know, just under 200, somewhere in there. The more expensive Chromebooks can run up to as much as a laptop, $300 or $400 or $500, some of them. And there's a lot of variables. You know, the screen resolution is one thing. Battery life is another thing that becomes important when you're not, if you're just using it the way I would intend to use it would be to grab some content to watch on my TV and then set the Chromebook down. I guess I don't really care too much about the touch of the keyboard, whether or not it has a touchpad on it, or you use a mouse, or however whatever you use to manipulate what you see on the screen. So I don't know. I thought I would include it, and if anybody's interested in Chromebooks, there's some information in here you might find useful. And there's an article off to the side here, the 5 best Chromebooks. It depends on what you consider best, I suppose. For some people, the best one would be the cheapest. For some people, best would be the fastest and the best. The best in other regards, like screen resolution, audio quality, battery life. There's a number of factors that you would want to consider probably based on your own situation and what your own needs might be. Unless there's questions, when I didn't give you enough to really ask any questions about, I'm just presenting the article as a way of divulging information, I guess, or sharing information. Moving on, this was something I found kind of interesting. I don't know about any of you, but a lot of times I talk about, with friends, I talk about, well, the good old days. It wasn't like this in the good old days. So I found this little thing here. It's like Google Earth, that you can go back in time up to 66 million years ago and see what the Earth looked like. And
yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and you can put in a city. Let's see, I can put in Rochester, Michigan, I guess. Rochester Hills, Michigan. We'll pick that one. And it puts a little red dot there, and you can zoom in just kind of like you can with Google Earth. And there's a little note down here in the lower right. Use the left and right arrow keys to step through time. So now I've stepped back through time. What did Earth look like 90 million years ago? What did it look like 105 million years ago? Rochester Hills could have existed back then in almost the same relative spot, it looks like. And so you can step back through and you can see the different shapes of the continents, how things they claim. And I don't know how many people, there was no way to record this. So a lot of this is, I think,
Speculation.
It's based on assumptions from more current measurements of things moving on the surface of the planet, I suppose.
I wonder who the mayor was back then.
Well, let's see. I think Adam knew her. I know he's not in the meeting, but he seems to know a lot about the old days in Rochester when I talk to him. You know who I'm talking about, Adam? The guy who is usually at the computer club. And and Adam still runs Windows 8, and he's probably believing that he can't Zoom with Windows 8, which is not true, but I'm guessing that he's too busy on his flip phone and playing games on Windows 8 or something. I don't know. So anyway, so you can go back and forth with the arrows on the keyboard. That's what I'm doing now. So I can step up to current times, supposedly. It doesn't look really current to me, but so you can see the continents. And there's a big rift there at 90 million years ago that had closed up, that was already closed up 105 million years ago, but it must have closed up again after that, because as you go forward, there it's closed up again. I don't know how important this is. It's probably not too important to me. I don't know about the rest of you, but it was just somebody spent a fair amount of time, I think, assembling this. And it probably is something that maybe geography teachers in high school would be interested in sharing with students, I suppose. I'm not sure.
Hey, Don, wouldn't there have been a big crater down by Florida in the Gulf of Mexico 65 million years ago when that asteroid hit?
Well, one would think so. Let's see, go back to 66 million years ago, and it looks like Florida isn't even there. And where my mouse is circling around that little white area?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where it hit. I don't know. But who knows? I mean, there's no historical data that confirms this. You know, there weren't map makers 66 million years ago.
Speculation.
Wait a minute, Don. This is based on plate tectonics, and it's a well-documented science. Okay, I mean, there's no magic on this. This is, I mean, they've compared the rocks in Nova Scotia to rocks, the type of rocks that are in Africa, where they were once joined. So
sure, I understand that.
So
I understand there's been some documented evidence about what you call the tectonics plates moving, of course, and they're going to continue to move probably more likely than not.
A couple of inches a year, you know, an inch or so a year, or I don't know, maybe no more than that, and less than that.
Yeah, something like that, I guess. Yeah, it's something we wouldn't notice from one day to the next, but from one decade to the next, we might. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when you showed the picture of the U.S. there, the one where it had all the seas in the middle of the country, and that's one of the reasons on the western side of that. In Utah, they're finding all of these prehistoric bones and stuff from.
Like this, you're talking about this one right here?
Yeah. So that this was a very rich area, tropical, and you had all kinds of dinosaurs living there, and that's why they find all these bones out west.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That all makes sense, yeah.
There's a couple of PBS articles where a guy from director of paleontology or whatever from the National Museum there that was doing that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, this picture here, what I thought of was that, you know, for years people have been saying there's a major earthquake is going to break California off and separate it from the rest of the country. It looks like this happened 90 million years ago, and what we're seeing is it moved back in place. Something moved it back and joined it back up somehow.
That might be showing the ice age there.
Could be. It could be. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting just to kind of scroll through and see the changes.
Well, the other thing too is it shows that the sea there in the middle of North America, and you go out to Kansas and you find seashells. How the hell did they get there?
I don't know.
Great big huge seashells.
Yeah.
And stuff. So and that's the reason. That was ocean once.
Yeah,
And they find bones of fish that are like 10 feet or 20 feet long.
yeah.
How do they get to Kansas? Well, that was the reason.
Well, maybe they were flying fish.
Maybe.
I'm just joking. But I understand your point. Yeah, yeah. So there is some science behind this. My point in saying what I said was there was nobody back then to witness it that we could talk to today or that left any written records.
Well, I'd like to insert a point here. If
Yeah.
The human migration coming from Europe over into the New World required a land bridge over the Bering Strait, you see, up toward Alaska. So
Yeah, right up.
There it is right there.
you see the migration. So we ended up with a lot of people in the Western Hemisphere, the American Indian, which was related to Asian migration, you see. From what is now Asia across the Bering Strait into the Western world, and then that was opened afterward as a result of the movement of the different waterways appeared, which end up to be barriers. So you ended up with a population existing in the Western world. You see, and
or they migrated from up by Alaska. Maybe they were related to the Eskimos.
Well, you were looking at a situation where, let's say, if you say all of humanity began in Africa, you see, and then you have a migration outward, you can see that there was a natural bridge in order for the people then to travel into this new world.
Right.
But you got to go back. That happened like 30,000, 20,000 years ago, not 105 million. So what does it show 30,000 years ago, Don?
Well, let me take a look here. Let me.
I think you'll find the land bridge and the
35,
timing
20 million.
that allegedly had them come across were not in fact.
It goes from 20 million to 0.
Oh, okay.
So.
All right. Well, the land bridge at 20, 30 million years ago was due to the Ice Age.
That could very well be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Human beings didn't exist then.
Are you sure?
That's a good point.
Are you sure about that? I don't know.
What's the question?
Did human beings exist 20 million years ago?
No.
No. Well, and our ancestors did, but they were not human.
Well, what were they?
Homo sapiens are about 200, 300,000 years.
Oh, okay.
I think roughly.
You have a better memory than me. Anyway, I'm glad this raised so many questions. I just thought it was kind of curious to watch the continent shift.
I saw this also, and it's a kind of a cute thing.
Yeah.
You know, the gist of it was they said, where was your city or house located 20 million years ago, you know?
Yep, there's the red dot with Rochester Hills right there.
Yeah.
So, and interestingly enough, some of you probably know this, right here in Rochester Hills, they've discovered prehistoric mastodon site.
Right. The thing that's interesting here in that picture is no Great Lakes.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're the result of the Ice Age.
Probably, yeah. That would be a good guess, I suppose.
They've also discovered right downtown an ancient well. It's not mastodon, but it's, like early history.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a glass plate over it right downtown on Main Street.
Oh, yeah. And how old was that? I don't remember the date on it. Did they have a date as when they thought that was?
Probably a few hundred years old.
Yeah. And you know that there was a big project to dig a canal all the way across southern Michigan. And that wasn't more than 100 years ago. That was probably might have been about 100 years ago now.
What, to join Lake Erie to Lake Michigan?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, that would save a lot of travel.
Some of the guys I worked with at the engineering company, they knew where there was still evidence of where the canal had been partially dug. They never finished it. They never finished the project. But some of these civil engineers and surveyor people, they know where the digging was around here, and they could probably direct us there.
It's in one of our parks. I forget whether it's Bloomer Park or something, where there's the 100 steps that go down, and that's the beginning of the canal.
Yeah. I should see if I can get a hold of my old boss and see if he'd be interested in coming in, because he was a civil engineer, and he was, for a while before I met him, he was the operations manager at the city of Rochester Hills, and he probably knows a lot of those details. I should call him and see if he would be willing to give us a short presentation on some of that history.
But why would it be in Bloomer Park? You would think they would start a canal at Toledo.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we were negotiating. We were negotiating Toledo away from us back then. Remember, we got the upper. We traded Toledo for the Upper Peninsula.
Oh, yeah.
There's a canal street in Mount Clemens, and the canal runs alongside it.
Oh, that could be. And you know what? That could be where part of it. That could be where a major part of it is, I suppose.
I believe it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I forgot about that canal. The street called Canal over there. Anyway, let's move on to something else, I guess. This is something I'm gonna just bring this up a little quickly here. This is a quick reference guide to using Zoom. And what I plan to do is send this to Barry, see if he'll post this on the website so that anybody can get to it. It's just, it's a 2-page document. It just has quick little guides about what different parts of the screen do and some of the capabilities and so forth. And it's just a PDF document. So that'll be available for your viewing pleasure, I guess, at some point. And I will just make a comment. This page, when I originally downloaded it, it had a big logo here. And I wasn't too sure that it was a good idea to leave their logo on something that we were making available to a large number of people. So I edited this document. And it was a little more challenging than I thought it was going to be. I use a product to display PDFs sometimes. I use a product called, the name is escaping me. It's called PDF fill, PDF. Anyway, and it had a tool in it that allowed me to convert this PDF to a Word document.
Yeah.
Then it became easy to take stuff out or put stuff in. It became easier. This is a Word document. A lot of special formatting going on here with this block with the blue bar across the top. I don't know if they made it a table or or if it was just an image that they brought in when they did the conversion.
Well, Don, in order to play around with this, you're going to have to download the Zoom app to your laptop, which I have done.
Yeah.
And then you can play around with it and do all the things, practice or whatever. And because you can't really do it.
You can do a Zoom meeting to your smartphone though.
Right. But
so there's a way you could do it at home. But you're right. You have to download the app, and I believe that's just it's a pretty quick download, as I remember right. In fact, there was a link on the OPC website. The first time you go in, it downloads and installs this for you, and installs something anyway.
But for what we're doing now, you really don't need it, right? I mean, You just need the link.
Correct. Yeah. But if you want to, if you want to learn more about the application, I mean, I
Right.
can link into it and I can do what I'm doing in the meeting. But there's a lot of things in here that I wasn't aware of until I looked through this document.
Yeah,
So
good point.
it's only 2 pages. You can print it out on 1 piece of paper. If you turn the paper over, or 2 pieces of paper, print it out. And the next time you're Zooming, you want to figure out something, or if you want to take a shot at being a meeting host, the way that works is you join the meeting, and then Mary Ann has the ability to promote you as a user to being a host of the meeting. And then you can share your desktop and stuff like that. Some other things, I suppose. I'm not an expert on it, but I'm a big fan of these quick reference sheets. I think they're really handy. And so anyway, that's how I did this. I converted it to a Word document. I trimmed out what I didn't want, and then I made it back into a PDF again. And there's several ways you can make a PDF, right? I mean, you can use if you open a Word document with LibreOffice Writer, they have an export tool that will export to a PDF. You can use one of the PDF makers that set themselves up like a printer. So you would click on print and select your PDF creator object. Instead of a printer, you would select the PDF, and Microsoft has one also. There's a Microsoft PDF thing that converts to PDF. You might have some problems occasionally doing that sort of thing. Some of the problems I've run into in the past, for instance, are sometimes like these little things here that I'm circling with my mouse right now, those blue buttons and the orange buttons. Sometimes those might not reproduce correctly when you go from a Word document to a PDF, or you go from a screenshot to a PDF. It's not PDFs are very handy. They're very useful, and generally they work quite well, but not always. So if you run into problems, I would try one of the other PDF methods of making a PDF if you're in the business of trying to do that. So anyway, I just wanted to point this out. I'm going to upload this to Barry and see if I can get him to put it on the website, and it should show up with, it won't be a shortcut. It'll be a separate file. It'll be a separate PDF file. And so I want to get to something else here. Oh, this is a quick instructions here. How to pause Windows 10 updates for up to 35 days. You can read through this. It's pretty simple. There's a setting. You go to settings and you'll find a place where you can turn PDF updates on or off. And on mine, when I did this, it let me select the date out in the future. So I can delay updates until that date. And if I go in before that date, I can re-delay it again. So if you're hearing bad things about the latest update from somebody and you don't want to apply it to your machine, you can pause them that way. And it's built in. It's built into Windows. And the way I get to settings, you have to go to settings to do this. And the way I do that these days is if I bring my taskbar up, let's see if I can get it to come up right here. Down at the bottom, see where my cursor is in the lower right? It looks like a blank window. If I click on that, this comes up, and you have all these settings. And you can, some of these may not all be there, but you can add them pretty easily. And so settings is all settings right here where my mouse is. You just click on that and up comes your settings. And then you can find the settings you want. This is where your apps are. So I mentioned earlier to I forget her name. You guys were talking, she was talking about one of the apps And this was how you would uninstall an app. It's not a program, it's an app. There is a difference. And so there's a difference in the way that you would uninstall as well as install. And let's see
That
if
was
I can.
Dorothy.
Pardon? I didn't hear that.
That was Dorothy.
Oh, Dorothy. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I brought this screen up. Now I got to see if I can get rid of it because my little, there's something blocking the screen right there.
And Don, we can't see when you're moving on your computer screen. We can only see the
can't see
screen
my
that you're
mouse?
sharing. Correct.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
Can you move it over?
I'm moving it right now.
I can see your mouse.
Now I
See
can
that, but
see
can't
now.
see it when it goes down to your.
Now I can see it. Yeah.
When it goes down to my taskbar, you can't. In fact,
I can't see it.
But right now, because I'm sharing the desktop, normally if I'm not sharing the desktop, if I bring it all the way down to the bottom, my taskbar pops up automatically. Okay, it doesn't do that now. The way I got it to pop up was to hit my Windows key. And there it popped up my taskbar. Can you see that okay?
No.
You don't see this menu over here to the left?
No.
No.
Oh, because it's not in the Zoom window. I'm guessing it's just on my PC.
That's it.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I'll keep that in mind for future comments, I suppose.
Just
Okay.
reference, I hit the Windows key and my taskbar came up on my machine.
Okay.
Overriding the Zoom display.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. There may be a setting somewhere we can change that. I don't know. I'll have to look later. This next thing is something that Ken Barnes helped me with. This is an interesting website. It's really, the website is Thingiverse, thingiverse.com. And this part of it, there's an organization, I guess, called MakerBot. It allows you to produce real objects with a 3D printer. And so I had this issue. I had these little plastic things on my shower doors that you would, in order to save your fingernails, it was just a little plastic tab like that you would use to open and close the shower doors on our shower. And there was one on the outside and one on the inside. And they break fairly often. So there's a place by my house that sold parts, and I've replaced them before. I think it was the cleaning people were here last week, and they must have really leaned on the shower doors pretty hard because they broke both of these handles at the same time. So I went to this place that sells the parts, and they weren't terribly expensive, $10 each or so. And so I bought replacements, but the guy said, these are the last two. That's an older shower door. I don't think they make them anymore. And so we don't have a source. We can't replace these. And so I immediately went, oh, well, they're obviously going to break again at some point. So I was talking to Ken about using 3D printing to maybe recreate. So he pointed me to this site called Thingiverse, and it's pretty interesting. You know, you can bring things up here. These are all things that people, I believe, have already made. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but these are things that people have made, and then they post the object along with some download files that you can download to reprint, duplicate the object on a 3D printer. So we came here, and I didn't know what this was called. I didn't know the manufacturer. So we typed a search in here, and I typed in.
You don't have to come.
No, I want to come. When do you want to leave?
Huh?
When do you want to leave?
About 5 minutes or so.
You can leave anytime you want. Yeah, it's okay. So let me spell that correctly, it'll help. So I put in a search shower door handle, had no idea what would come up. So I searched for that. And here's some, sure enough, here's some shower door handles. As I scroll down just a little ways, oh, this one right here, I'll click on it and hopefully you'll be able to see it in a second. There it is. So that is pretty much an exact replica of what I needed, as luck would have it. And there was a little blurb about it from the guy that uploaded this. Says his handle is Tarrow, T-A-R-R-O-W, right there. And the same thing had happened to him. His shower door handles broke and he couldn't find them. So he told me, I think he writes in his little description, he used FreeCAD to draw this up as a 3D object. And lo and behold, it looked very, very similar. In fact, it looked amazingly similar to the handles that I had, except mine were clear plastic. This one was printed with a blue filament, and so it's blue. And to really, if you want to look at it closely, if you click this hexagon thing up here, it allows me to move this all around in 3D so I can check all the details. This is not a very complex object, of course, but if there was something more complex, you could look at it from just about every angle. And so I said, great. So I knew Ken had hopefully I'm not going to deluge you, Ken, with a bunch of requests to print stuff, but maybe you could start a side business.
No worries, Don.
So we used this, and the way we printed it was very, very easy. It was downloadable. So I clicked on this download all files button, and it downloaded a zip file. And when I unzipped it, so there, I've already saved this, so I'm not gonna save it again, but so I already saved this. And when I unzipped the file, what we got was one file with a .stl extender on it. It turns out that that's all you need for a 3D printer to print that object. Now, how do you get it printed if Ken's not home or he tells you to get lost? I don't think that's going to happen, but he might if he's too busy. The library, when they open back up, they have a 3D printer, and you can take that STL file on a thumb drive to them and pay a little bit for the material, the plastic filaments, and they can print this object. I think you turn that over to them and they turn it on, and you know, it might take some time to print. This doesn't print like a document in 10 seconds or something. It takes, how long did this one take, Ken, when you printed it? Do you remember?
A little under 2 hours, and the library also charges way more if it's over 4 hours to print.
Oh, okay. All right, that's good to know. So the resource like that is available. If you get to where you think you want to do a lot of 3D printing, you can buy some of these basic 3D printers. And I know a lot of you guys are engineers, and so you like tinkering with mechanical things. And one of the printer packages I looked at came as a box of parts. So you got to assemble it and align it and do everything all yourself. So you became intimately familiar with how everything fit together. And that may be more than you want to know, but if you ever have to repair it or fix it or adjust it, it might be a good exercise to go through. Set up your own printer, and then you should know how to do everything that it might need down the road. And I believe they do need adjusting from time to time because there's a bit of vibration and movement that goes on to print an object. So I just thought I would point that out. It was a fun project, and it worked, and so it came out well. And Ken was very helpful in this process. And this site was amazing with all the stuff. There's thousands and thousands of objects that people have uploaded to this site. And so it's, if you want to print one of them, it's pretty simple. You call it up, you download the file, and find somebody or someplace with a 3D printer that you have access to, and away you go. And Bob's your uncle, as they say in Australia.
Don, I have to leave for a medical appointment. Good talk. Appreciate it very much. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Don.
We'll see you
We're
next
about at
time.
the end
Is
of our
everybody
time
leaving?
here.
Anybody
Take care.
staying? Is anybody staying?
I'll stay.
I got
I'll
one more. I just got one more short.
I'm staying.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Good, good, good.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay,
I'm
very
staying.
good. All right. This next thing is pretty short. It's called the best Windows apps. And if you haven't become familiar with Windows 10 apps, they're very handy. I mean, they've got, let's see if I can open up a menu here and get to, you go to the Microsoft Store, and here's all the apps. Now, many of them are free. A lot of them, as you can see, what comes up first is a lot of these games. And then they have a list.
Anything.
Top free. You're not seeing the. You're not seeing anything at all.
I see the digital trends page.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh, well, I don't know what I'm doing
I
wrong
only
then.
see,
Oh.
I only see part of the window also.
Well, my goodness.
I see the best Windows apps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you're
I
not
see-
seeing. I'm scrolling the apps up and down. You don't see that?
No.
Scrolling.
No, no, I'm doing the scrolling here. Anyway, I'll have to describe it for you, I guess. If you go to the Microsoft Store, which you can get from the start menu, you can just type in, if you don't see it on your menu, just type in the word store, S-T-O-R-E, and it'll become the top choice on the menu. And you open the Microsoft Store, and it opens up into a window. Why are you not seeing it? Because
well, we can see.
You're not
turning
seeing
windows.
you're not seeing things run up and down the screen, though, are you?
No.
Boxes? No. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Because I'm seeing a whole different screen than you're seeing right now, and it's probably because I opened a new screen that is not shared.
Right. You got to share it.
Well, let's see if I know how to do that. I guess
Well,
I
you
don't.
can just explain it.
That's what I'm going to do because we only have a few minutes. So anyway, there's all kinds of categories of free apps or paid apps, I should say, that are available for Windows 10. They install very, very easily. They install in a similar fashion to like an app does on your smartphone. So, and they have different categories. One of the categories is top free apps. And it starts out with like a line of boxes, kind of like it looks like the standard Windows 10 desktop. And so there's these boxes, and they have a little description under them, and they tell you whether it's free or not. So in the category of top free apps, they're all free. And so one of the apps I found was a language trainer. And so let me see if I can bring that up. Let me search for it here. It's called Duolingo, is the name of the app. D-U-A-L-I-N-G-O. And it was free. Okay, do you see this screen now with the frog on it?
No.
No,
No.
you don't. Okay. All right. Well, Duolingo is an app. It's very easy to use. You can learn different languages. You can select a language like French, German, Spanish, Italian, like that. And the way it works, it has some basic lessons. And you can step through them, and it brings up a screen. I'm going to click on one here. And like in this one, lesson 1 in French, it'll have a start button, a big long blue button at the bottom of that little mini screen that comes up. And you just click on start and it starts the application. Yeah, did you hear that?
We can hear it, yes.
That pronounces a French phrase. It shows it in writing on the screen. And if you don't want to listen to the sound first, you can type in English your answer down below. You can type in what you think it is. What I found is if I just type in a single letter of anything, it doesn't really matter. And then a check button lights up, and I say check, and then it lights up a little thing across the bottom comes up, a bar that comes up in pink. It says correct solution was a boy. Un garçon means a boy. So I can go back and I can repeat it as many times as I want. Can you hear that when I click it?
The frog?
Un garçon. You don't hear the sound?
No.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, well, explore it. And there's many, many, many other apps in Windows. What was the, was it Dorothy? What were we talking about before that app? Oh, OneDrive.
Yeah.
Let me see, let me do a search and see if that's one of these apps I was talking about. It does, OneDrive comes up as an app for Windows 10. And so if you if you go back to the bottom of the screen where I was, and you probably aren't going to see this either, I click on this box and there's a bunch of little buttons come up, or they're good sized buttons actually. It has a notification area in the top of that window, and somewhere in here under there's all settings, you click on that, and then when that window opens up, there's a little button that you can click on. It's not a little button, it's a big area called apps. So you can go to your Windows settings and it comes up and you click on apps, and then you can search, you can find that app, and then you can remove it. I don't think you're going to see it in the control panel programs and features list. I don't think you can remove it that way, because it's not like one of the original programs. It's considered an app, which is a different category of stuff you can get. So anyway, I check out the Microsoft Store and scroll around. There's a huge number of apps in here. One of the things you can download, they have if you don't have Microsoft Office, you can put in a search term. It's for Trio, T-R-I-O. Let me do that again, T-R-I-O. It comes up, and they have something in the App Store called Trio Office, which is Word. It says Word, Slide, Spreadsheet, and PDF. So the Word is equivalent to Word. If you install this Trio Office, when you start working with these programs, you'll notice that they have the same name for their word processing as LibreOffice or OpenOffice does. So is there an advantage to using the Trio Office version? I'm not sure, but I think there might be, because this one has Microsoft's blessing. LibreOffice, you can go and you can get it for free, and you can download it and install it. This is a tad easier. If you find it in the Microsoft Store, it's a little easier to install because it works more like a smartphone. It's the nearest way I can describe it. It's got a lot of pictures and stuff that, and so I did a search for the word Trio, T-R-I-O, and Trio Office came up. So you can install the app and it'll have it'll have Word, slide, spreadsheet, and something with PDF compatibility or something. And so you can use that. So you don't have to go and find LibreOffice online someplace and then be concerned about whether this site is going to maintain your privacy or not. If you do it from the Microsoft Store, you only have to be concerned about whether or not Microsoft will protect your privacy. That was kind of a joke, but
Oh,
it
yeah,
it didn't go over so good, I guess. So anyway, I see that the time is a little after 1 o'clock actually. So that's all I have for today, unless somebody has questions or comments they want to make now, or you can always get a hold of me through the OPC somehow. I do teach. I'm not scheduled to teach any classes these days. And Tom, I don't know, are you teaching any classes right now in the tent or anything? Oh, I guess he left. So, okay. So
one thing I'd like to mention that I changed out my hard drive to a solid state hard drive.
Yeah.
And the difference in performance is phenomenal. And the other thing I did was I changed it to I think it's called dynamic drive numbers. I didn't quite understand what that was.
But I can explain dynamic drive numbers is a way to get yourself in trouble but it's very handy if you have multiple hard drives on a system. What to net it out, when you make a drive dynamic, what that says is that you can take a partition, you can take an unallocated area from one hard drive and an unallocated area from another hard drive, and you can get those together so that they both appear as a single drive letter in Windows Explorer. Now, if you lose one of those drives, you lose the information that's on both of them. So you got to be a little careful. You got to make sure you do backups. I stay away from the dynamic drives for that reason.
Well, I clicked on it by accident, and now I've got it. I don't know how to get rid of it.
Well, you can change them back, but I think you wind up having to reinstall what you have on that drive. I don't think it's an easy conversion back.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And so
I'll just be careful with it, I guess.
Yeah. So I've talked about that in previous meetings. I don't know if it wasn't something that got everybody's attention or not, but yeah, dynamic drives you use with if you you can put like 4 hard drives in one. Let's say you have a tower machine, and you have physical room for 4 hard drives. You can put 4 hard drives in there, and you can make all 4 of them look like one drive letter on your system.
So sort of like a RAID system.
Very similar, very, very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, Don, I'm still here, and no, I'm not teaching any live classes at all.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I haven't been asked to teach any since we went on the pandemic lockdown or whatever you want to call it. So
there's some consideration of doing some Zoom classes like the one-on-one that I used to do, but frankly, I haven't had time to do.
Well,
prepare for that yet.
I think you asked me one time to sit in for you on a one-on-one, and a person showed up with their own laptop, and they didn't know the password to get into it. And so,
hey guys,
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Yes, Dorothy.
Yeah, thank you. I found this very interesting, but most of it was way over my head. But I wish I was a little younger. I would have gone into technology. So I did find it, I loved hearing all of it, even though I didn't get, and thank you.
Don't get discouraged.
Now, I have a question.
Don't abandon us, Dorothy.
I have a question.
Okay.
But it's not, when you were talking about something else, it reminded me. I hope you don't mind if I ask this.
Not at all.
I was having a lot of trouble with my Comcast, so I went to the store and got a new box finally, because out of desperation. So I hooked it all up, fine. But I have used cordless headphones and headphones for many, many years because I have Bluetooth hearing aids on my phone.
Okay.
And I'm that deaf. But the headphones are a godsend. And I can hear on this very, very well. Anything on a telephone or anything like this, I can hear better than if I was in a class. But this is about the headphones. On the new, does anyone have a new Comcast box? I can't get my headphones to, my old Sony headphones, to bring the sound from the TV into them, even though it looks like they're charging. Does the new Comcast box, is it not compatible with Sony headphones?
I don't know the answer to that. I have a Chromecast and I don't really care for it. I've had some issues from time to time. Most of the time it works okay. And it puts, I mean, I get sound on my TV. So I'm not sure if your TV has like an audio out jack.
Yes, it worked before I got the new box.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know for sure then. I don't know for sure.
Thank you. At least I'm satisfied that
but I would make a comment about
experts. No.
I would make a comment about the Chromecast. I found it works, everything works much better if I just unplug the Chromecast from the TV and plug in an HDMI cable directly to my computer.
No, I know, but
if you're not able to do that, then
no.
Okay.
Are we saying
Chromecast
or Comcast?
I'm sorry.
Chromecast or Comcast?
I'm going to say the answer to what I think was your question, Comcast.
Comcast, yeah.
That's different, yeah.
I have a new Xfinity box about 2 weeks old, but I don't use headphones with it.
Okay. Does it have the capability to use the headphones? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Because they don't know anything at the store.
Are the headphones wireless?
I have to leave.
Yes, they're wireless.
Okay.
Do they use Bluetooth?
Could you repeat that?
Do the headphones use Bluetooth?
No.
They're using Wi-Fi then?
Yes.
Well, that should work.
I know. It works on my other television. So, and I worked before I got the new box. No problem.
I'd suggest talking to tech support.
At Comcast. I'd call
Does your new box have nothing on the front except a light at the bottom?
That's correct.
That's the box I have.
Correct.
Could it be a pairing issue? She has to go through pairing with a new box?
No, you do not have to pair.
No, it's not.
With Bluetooth, you'd have to.
Yeah.
It's not Bluetooth.
No, it's not a Bluetooth.
She's got to be using Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I've got a pair of wireless. I think they're Sony headphones.
Yes. Yes.
And I had to use a different connection on my TV to get those to work. The regular headphone jack wouldn't work with what they gave me, and so I wound up using, my TV had something called TOS, a TOS connector, which is optical. So I wound up having to buy a little adapter for $10 or so that you plug into that, and then the headphones plugged into that, and that worked great.
I
But-
have used these headphones. I have two televisions and two identical headphones. The one television has different, it's very obvious that it works. This other television where I can't utilize the new box, Comcast box, it doesn't show input, output. It has the red and the white, what do you call them, plug, I'll call them.
Yeah, that's usually audio, left and right channels of audio.
Correct, and that's what I used on the old, it actually said that on the old box. Of course, the new box supposedly is supposed to help with my connection, which I've had a lot of problems with Comcast.
I would ask that question. I would get a hold of Comcast tech support somehow.
Okay.
Whatever that takes, and
Okay.
ask them how you can get audio output to headphones from their box.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
They may
Thank
have
you so much.
they may have an
Might be something
adapter.
in the settings on it.
It could be in the settings. They may have an adapter that they'll give you.
Yes. I will. Thank you for putting those words in my mouth. That will help me, and yes,
Okay.
I will.
Good
I
luck.
will.
Yeah, those jacks are called RCA jacks.
Yeah.
What?
The red and white jacks that you mentioned. What he's saying is those are referred to as RCA jacks. That's an industry standard that's been around for probably 50 years.
I know. Yes. Yeah. Yes, but thanks. That helps me though. I know how to. I will somehow get a hold of a tech that knows what they're talking about. It's hard to get a tech that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Without them coming to the house.
It's kind of a luck of the draw.
Yep.
It is.
But I thank you for, now next Tuesday, you will all be here.
I believe so. Yeah, most of us will.
As I said, I don't get a lot of it, but I find it very interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Well, everything we had, just so you know, everything that we talked about today, there will be links on Barry's website. And if you don't know how to get to that, it's just, you go to the OPC website, you type that in.
Yeah.
And then at the end, no, not OPC. There's another website. Excuse me, I misspoke. There's a website called Jay Vanders. Jack Vanderschreier is hosting this for us. And so he's picking up the expense to host this website that we use. So the website name is Jay Vanders, JVANDERS.
Got it.
.com.
Okay.
And then after the .com, you put a / and the word Barry.
And what was the last word?
Barry. Barry Parker's the guy that uploads data to that.
Could you spell that, please?
B as in boy, ARRY.
Oh, Barry. Okay, I didn't get the B. Okay. Thank you.
And if you go there, there'll be some links there, and you just pick on, it'll say Barry's Computer Club, or one will say Barry's Ubuntu group.
I'm not.
Okay.
Kind of
Thanks.
myself.
You just click on the one you want, and then there'll be little buttons with the years on them. So you want to this year, 2020.
Okay.
And then probably by tomorrow or the next day, all the links I used today will be posted there, and you can click on them and go through the stuff yourself.
Yes, there is something that I'd like to click on. So thank you.
Okay. Good luck.
Okay.
Don't give up on us. Come back next week.
Thank you. See you next time.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. One other thing, try going into using your Comcast remote and going into settings on your TV screen and going to the settings and set up the audio and change the audio modes on it. That might help.
Oh, all right. I'll try that. I'm very familiar with going into settings and all of that nonsense. Yep, I'll try that. Thank you.
Good luck.
No harm in trying.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Okay. Okay, I guess that's done. I guess everybody's gone. So I'm going to leave also.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you so very much, Mary Ann.